Just want to test my mic. Can you hear me, Randy? Yep. All right. Thank you. I'm going to give everyone another minute. So we'll start at about 5:31. Make sure we give people a chance to get on. Well, I think I'm ready. Everyone ready to get started? All right, we have a PowerPoint to go through, and we'll open up discussion. Some of you, I see some familiar faces that may have joined us last week, and some of the slides may be the same, but we'll go through them quickly, and if there's any questions, please let me know. All right, ready to go. Why are we here today? Just give an idea of what we're focused on doing today. The review of the scope of the project, understand the impact of the proposal on Jefferson property, and then discuss community desires for the future of Jefferson site. And again, the district needs your voice.
How do we make this small?
All right, the 2020 vision, and this is the scope of the project.
No, honey, it's over here.
Is everybody on mute? There we go. Yeah, next slide, please. Okay, looking at this slide, it's the same general project that we proposed and discussed with the committee last year. And just to go through it quickly, that each facility is going to be touched and supported. So at the middle school, high school, we already have had a construction project related to secure entry and check-in. Academic wings updated. The doors that are accessing both sides of the media center have been replaced, and what a big difference that's made as far as security and the good solid doors for those hallways. Also included in the bond is the construction of a dedicated middle school gym and locker rooms. Again, going through the hard door and hardware updates to the facility. And as you can see from the diagram, that we're talking about a partial roof replacement. And we have track storage there, but it's also going to be just general storage that we need for that building. And again, that building is currently being utilized for 6th through 12th grade. So we have a genuine middle school, high school for that facility. And the gym space is getting tight now that we have athletics in that gym related to middle school. So it's a needed gym in our district. Partial roof replacement, that is the building 1999, year 2000. So we're about 20 years onto that roof. And now we have to start be thinking about systematically replacing that roof as we move forward. So you can see the section that were designated for this grant. And just a couple of things on that diagram, pickup and drop off improvements, reconfiguration of that and getting the buses out of that loop, and new signage has really made major improvements to the flow of traffic for the high school, middle school, high school. All right, next one is the demolition of Jefferson green space. That what we're here to discuss, to demolish the 1954 Jefferson Elementary. We talked about green space and potential MAPS athletic field considerations, and that would be between Sands Park and Jefferson site. Maintaining neighborhoods is a top priority for MAPS and property stakeholders. That's why we're here. Looking at Kennedy Building, as we discussed in the past, that we feel reconfiguration of that building. It's a well-built building, and it's ripe for remodeling, and we'll be able to fit pre-K through 5th grade elementary in that building. It'll be awesome to have all of our students in those grade levels under one roof. What comes with that is demolishing of the 1927 building, supporting secure entry and check-in and academic wing security, update to meet modern educational standards, a dedicated bus and parking areas, and updated pickup and drop-off areas, which are critical for that building. It's not very conducive right now for those kind of activities at that facility. And then again, Madison, looking at reutilization to Madison, but we also have some current facility partners. Those are listed on the side. We're really happy that Madison can be fully utilized, and these partnerships exist, and we can support the community with these programs. So we're talking about minor renovations to relocate MAPS central office. We need mechanical updates, mainly boiler needs to be replaced in that building. And the roof replacement is key for Madison. So as I said, each building will be touched with a bond proposal. Next slide, please. And this is similar to what we saw last year if you were part of the presentation. We have about 30 million, almost $31 million for an ask for the community. That proposed 2.65 mil increase to existing bond debt to jumpstart our 20-year vision. The total of school debt would be 4.7 mils. And there's a scale there that represents what you may anticipate an increase in your taxes according to your property values or your market value. And the bar graph below that represents the first year real small there is the 1999 bond that they passed successfully, and that the community has committed 4 mils for the construction of that building. And with the blue bars run out, and that would be the payoff of that facility. And the green bars represent adding new debt to that. And so the community promised, and I'm grateful that they promised 4.0 mils, and we're asking for a 4.7 total mil. And obviously that will decrease over time, just like the 1999 bond did. And as we pay that off, there's less debt to be collected from the community to pay the remaining bond. So that will decrease. All right, next slide. Defining the vision for Jefferson. This is the essence of our committee here. Yes, the proposed plan includes full demolition of the Jefferson building, as well as the necessary site work to create an open park-like green space at the Jefferson site. The current playground equipment and parking lot will be maintained until a plan for that site has been further developed. Slide. Did we jump one? Yep, there we go. We've talked, this is a slide from that we used last time we've talked with the Jefferson group. Proposed community green space, a community recreation athletic potential. The items outlined below are just a sample of some of the potential items discussed within the community to date. And as you can see, the diagrams represent some possibilities in that green space. All right, next slide. This committee will work to determine how to meet the needs of, make sure locked on my screen, meet the needs of both district and community in collaboration with Jefferson neighborhood stakeholders, district representatives, City of Manistee, Manistee County planners, Sands Park Committee, architecture and engineer contractors, and other associated recreational entities. So definitely looking at a partnership on this work, and like to hear what people are thinking and provide us some insight and develop a scope and idea of the possibilities for the site. So the considerations, elements of green space to serve community and recreational needs. You know, we talked about location of a 100-yard practice field. Obviously, with the development of Kennedy, we'll be losing that field, and that is currently utilized. So green space is for the district use is being compromised with the development of that. You know, the optimization of Sands Park amenities possibility. Discuss city and county park plan and consider collaborative direction. We've heard subdivision of property and green space, residential use, new purpose, other ideas that we haven't thought of at this point. So I think we're asking, just sharing some of the ideas that we've heard or conversations that we had. And again, we want to open this up. Next steps. Summary of ideas shared, outreach to community entities, explore options, reconvene committee to discuss progress. So this is our thought, this is our idea, and we're really asking for community support and with forming our ideas and plans for a recommendation to the Board of Education. Next slide. As always, the district needs your voice. Consider joining the advocacy effort, encourage community members to exercise their right to vote, and help inform those around you of the project and importance. So not only for the Jefferson communication for that site, but the overall plan and the scope of the work that we're looking at in the MAPS 2020 vision. It's really important that we hear your voice, who's here today, but also sharing that with others in the community so that they're informed and may be able to participate in making some guided decisions. So with that, it's kind of right where we left off our conversations for those that attended last year in Jefferson's gym. And we did a reset. Not following through with the May election last year because of the COVID circumstance, and we're still in the thick of that situation, but we feel it's imperative at this time that we move forward with this bond ask, and which puts us in a position to start talking about Jefferson's site again. So I would, any questions related to the presentation or to clarify where we're at, or any opinions to that, please speak up.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, if I may.
Please.
Just to introduce myself, my wife and I bought a house at 445 Cedar Street a year ago. And so we are direct neighbors to part of the playground for the school.
Yeah.
Since I'm relatively new to the community, I have a couple of questions. One would be, what are the needs of the school district for athletic fields? What kind of sports are you seeing taking place at the Jefferson site in the future?
If we develop that as a recreational or athletic site, we're really looking for some green open space that we could potentially line for soccer, youth soccer, I know that middle school football could potentially utilize that for practice, not necessarily a game field. And I know there's the Manistee Recreation, they utilize our green spaces for youth soccer programs and their Pop Warner football programs.
Okay. And what is what are the ideas about who's going to own the site in the future? Will it still be the school district, the city, or?
Well, I think that's open to discussion. I'm being sensitive to the neighborhood there, and I think there's some possibilities related to the district's continued use of that as a green space and for a school purpose. We would own that. I'm talking to the city. The city is saying we have plenty of green spaces in park areas, and if you're familiar, sir, with Sands Park, which is adjacent to Kennedy Elementary and the old high school, the park that is to the south of that, the city is asking us to be sensitive to the redundancy of the same type of space in the same neighborhood, and that's understood. And I know that we've heard some conversation related to the potential parceling and development of the property. And I think, there's, the concerns I hear about that is, what would the zoning of that be? What would that potentially look like? And, what kind of project, would that development potentially look like? And so all those unknowns, I know, is very sensitive to the neighborhood, to have that kind of project without having a strong understanding of what it exactly will look like and a promise of what it would what it would look like.
I'm Paul Gunderson.
Yep.
I live across the street from Jefferson, and I had a couple questions about it. First of all, the funding of it, would this come from the demolition portion of the bond issue? For the first question, and sort of based on that, what would be the extent of development? For example, if you put in practice fields or soccer fields or football fields, would those be irrigated or leveled, or would they just be grass where the terrain already exists? Thirdly, who would be responsible for maintenance and mowing and things like that? And so if you could address those.
Yeah, let me try to address those. And if I've missed it, one of the questions that you were looking for, just restate it, please. But
Okay. Yeah.
the cost of it is included in the bond that taking the building down and prepping that site is part of the bond issue. It wouldn't be any other outside funds or once the bond passes, that means that money is dedicated for that purpose, so that we couldn't redirect it anywhere else. It would have to stay for the improvement of that site. And so the district, as long as the district owns it, we will maintain it. So we'll cut the grass, maintain it, and fix anything that may be broken or deficient. And at that time, we'll probably level it the best that we can, that it'd be usable for open field per se, middle school football practice or Pop Warner or soccer league. There are a couple of soccer goals currently at the old high school, and those would come over. It wouldn't be necessarily irrigated field. I think we can make that decision, but it's not currently priced in to be part of that project. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
Okay, is there anything I didn't cover that you asked, or additional things?
Additionally, how stable would this be after it would be constructed? I mean, would how subject to change would that be? And I would imagine part of that would be how formal the thing look? I mean, if it was kind of a green space with a meandering walk that people could jog and walk their dogs on, it would seem like future boards and councils could say, oh, there's nothing at the Jefferson site, let's put it there. So can you address that?
Well, it would be a asset of the district, and so the commitment that this board makes for it would be, the commitment and promise to the neighborhood and the community at that time. Now, if there is a need for, I don't know, another facility or development of that property, that would be the right of the future or future boards to decide on. But we have done a forecast of enrollment in the district, and I don't see that we need additional facilities related to school, but there may be, if it is used for athletics or outdoor events, that there may be improvements made to it. And we talked about maybe a picnic area or a small pavilion or bathrooms, maybe in the future for it or something like that. That could be determined on the boards on their behalf if they want to make improvements.
Okay.
But if they felt that they needed to sell it as an asset, that may be part of for operations. They need that money for operations. They may consider that too.
Excuse me, were you speaking of the building now, like selling the building and sectioning it out, or?
Nope, the building would come down.
And what was the reason for that?
It's a very old building, and it's not it's kind of outgrown its usable life, and we have a larger potential elementary in Kennedy where everyone could fit into it. So there's a ratio of square footage per enrollment, and we're exceeding the square footage that we maintain and pay for per student. So the model is a little bit inefficient per student. Does that make sense?
I understand that, but I think what I'm trying to maybe just explore is if there has been any consideration of just sectioning out the part of the site that the building is on and just sell that with the building on it.
Well, I don't know if the building is usable, once we leave it. It may be, but I think it's more ideal. What the other side of the coin of our conversation is a development of housing, and appropriate housing for the neighborhood is part of the conversation that I know the city is interested in us adding to our conversation.
Ron, if I can just jump in. This is Teresa Anderson, and I'm a board member, and I also live in the neighborhood. So nice to meet you, Mr. Lerum. But the presentation that Ron went through it's a culmination of about 4 years of doing a facility strategic plan for the school district. Is that about right, Ron?
It is.
Okay. And so they looked at the feasibility of keeping even a portion of the building for that gym space or selling it as is. In the past, if you're familiar with on US 31 heading north on the way to where the hospital is, there's an older school building that the district used to own it was the former Kennedy Elementary. And the history with that building, it was built, I think, after Jefferson School was built, and was taken offline from the district, I'm not sure how many years ago. So at that time, they tried to sell that land with the building on it, and it took a long time for that to happen. So they finally did. In the meantime, it's been sitting vacant, and the people that purchased it, or the company that purchased it, they were unable to, put their business in or have anything come to fruition. So within the community, there's a lot of like hard feelings over how the district has handled our buildings in the past. And at the current Kennedy site, where the old high school is from 1927 that sits there vacant, that's been problematic as well, because that to tear down that building, which was no longer usable or viable or sound, was a lot of money, and that was not included in any of the previous bonds. So the district in the community kind of has the history of not maintaining or being responsible for their buildings at all. So that's why, since we determined that the building is not viable for use or selling, that we would want to tear that down when we take it offline, so that we don't have that, so we're not perpetuating that, I guess, reputation, and we're being responsible stewards.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wouldn't want a decrepit, non-district maintained building sitting in any neighborhood, and at risk of just sitting there abandoned and not utilized. And I want to point out too that Madison Elementary is an example of us partnering and sustaining one of the school buildings with multiple community partners. So it's something we've done, but I just don't see the capacity for it at this site using that building.
And another piece to this, I think, is that since as a district, we're trying to right size ourselves to the enrollment that we have, and be more efficient and streamline, I think we would want to maybe take a look at not maintaining or even owning that piece, the Jefferson location. It is an asset for the district right now. And so what we would like is the input and, I guess, the conversation of how can we utilize that space responsibly to the benefit of the community, but also so that it fits in with the neighborhood that we all live in, and do that responsibly. So it would be like a win-win-win. Win.
Win.
Win. Winning.
So I appreciate that, Teresa. I'm going to kind of just cut to the chase. I mean, I appreciate you guys taking up some evening here, and let's kind of get to the heart of the conversation. Any other thought or any questions that you have related to the scope of work and how we got here is fine. I don't want to dismiss that. But some of you have sat through this conversation before, and those that haven't, we want to bring you along also. But anybody else have any insight, kind of move our conversation forward?
Mr. Stoneman, this is Mick Szymanski, and again, we've talked a few times on this, and again, to me, I think there's some real possibilities for the community to get more involved in supporting this if they know that there is some trade-offs to the community, and giving that land so that we can build additional individual houses in the city in a great location, I think has huge potential. Again, if just general, new construction is, $200,000 to $300,000. Just imagine how many nice, new homes could be built on that property that are paying taxes, that are helping support the schools, that are providing, the kinds of homes that would attract families with children, right? So it really does make sense when you're looking at developing this proposal to have that opportunity for growth. And again, as we've discussed many times, housing in the city is a challenge, and there are very few opportunities for new housing to be developed in that area. So that's the part that I see as being really advantageous for the community itself. It grows opportunities for the school system, as well as providing some revenues back to the city in the way of taxes on individual homesteads.
Thank you, Mick. Any other insight? Anyone want to counter or discuss continue Mick's topic related to development?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm Randy. I live between Veeder and Teresa. So, and I sell real estate. That site, I did a little research last night, just sitting around. It's zoned R2, which is medium density residential. I don't know if you've gotten this far, probably with the city a little bit. The whole site is just a little bit over 5 acres. And Mick and I will have heated, or not heated, but very good discussion on many occasions. There is opportunity, obviously, for new residential in the area. Building cost per square foot is about $200 a square foot right now, based on materials. So I don't know if you've gotten that far to say, out of the 5 acres, we could have 10 parcels and what that would bring, but not much building going on right now because of the lack of contractors and because of the cost of materials has gone up so incredibly high.
Yeah, we're trying to put a bond project together. I understand that.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I know it's zoned, but I would see that really being individual parcels, individual housing, not anything other than that in that district.
But how, I guess I don't understand then with the zoning. So Randy, you're saying that was zoned R2. So there's no guarantee though that would not be changed, correct? Or that
Well,
it's
if
zoned,
you,
because haven't there been issues before that have come up where the zoning has changed quickly to accommodate, like, say, a larger project?
but again, again, if you did it as individual lots, based on R1, and divided that property up in that location, then I think you would be, closer to satisfying the idea that we don't, develop this as, medium density and keep it to individual homes. And I get it, that it's probably not the most opportune time, but this isn't going to happen overnight. And again, I know that I've been looking at properties in Manistee, and there's not very many for new homes within the city limits. So,
And
Has there been any new homes built in that neighborhood in the last year or two?
there have, there's been a couple of them that have been built in that general area, a few streets away, and a number of nice renovations have been completed in that area as well.
mm-hmm. And the medium density residential, I can show you on my, oh no, I can't share my screen, but those zoning districts are fairly well set, and the east side of Cedar is pretty much the delineation of medium density residential, and that goes all the way to the industrial zoning down by Manistee Lake. So everything west of Cedar Street, with the exception of a couple things south of 8th Street, is all, so west of Cedar would be low density residential, and then east of Cedar all the way through the city is medium density residential. And that's just a differentiation of lot size and road frontage per parcel. So it's not there are some things you can do in medium density with special use permits that you cannot in the low density, but
Right.
I don't think anybody's talking about doing a high-rise
No.
apartment building or anything like that.
No. No.
But more just individual lots
Correct.
with some road frontage.
So if the district is the owner of those and lots and brokers those, so we can determine lot size and so forth.
Right.
And,
You'd have an
right.
engineering firm. Yeah, you'd have an engineering firm or a Spicer group possibly come out and survey it and get it all split up at that point.
Well, if I can introduce a couple of ideas there, I think it's really interesting discussion, but I think we need to put more thought in it than just cutting it up like you go out with a knife and throw the knife in the ground. You know, I think it would be really interesting if we could develop this as a wonderful green space with, say, playground equipment and maybe some walking paths and trees and places for activities, and at the same time, perhaps at the perimeter zone along the streets, developed housing, for example, so that we're not just thinking cutting it up into pieces, but you know, since the school district owns it, it would be, you know, we could even do some kind of idea competition for it, get some really good ideas out. There are some really wonderful places around the country if you start looking. One of them, which I really love, is in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's called the Gathering Space. I don't know if you are familiar with that. It's at a much larger scale, and it was founded by the Kaiser Foundation. But I think this is an opportunity where we should consider a range of ideas, I think, and just throw them out like Randy did and others have done, and see where it takes us.
Yeah. Nothing is. We haven't put pen to paper or anything. We're just gathering some ideas, and you know, in the back of my mind, you're representing kind of a compromise of to save and design something that captures some gathering space, some pathways or something, and a mix of housing also. That compromise makes that property even more ideal and potentially value increase too. So
I agree.
I think that, and you know, I have to keep in mind that the development of Sands Park is a great opportunity too. So what we're not able to capture or develop at Jefferson, what could we potentially improve in Sands Park, where it's still in the neighborhood, and I've got 500 students that could utilize it on a daily basis. And that's the challenge with Jefferson, that kind of exposure and use would not be available, nor do we want probably the noise and the traffic of that kind of in that neighborhood either. So I'm with you. I think there's a potential compromise for housing and not over develop the site and take consideration for some green space that could be used commonly.
We tend to focus green space on the summer and spring and fall months, but unfortunately we have about 3 or 4 months of winter as well. And just to throw out, there has been talk amongst us already of some sort of a walkway that, you know, possibly could also double as like a cross-country skiing space. I see people are doing that around the neighborhood and on the golf course where all the snow blows off and there isn't any snow. I think that'd be a pretty good winter use for that area could be groomed. And the city could be involved in that maybe. And so the closest cross-country course around here is out M55. And I believe that's owned by the city. But that could attract, more citywide use too.
That's a great point. We did we wrote a grant for cross-country equipment for the school and developed a loop at the school last year at the middle school, high school. But having a portion of that available to use for the same type of purpose or connect. And how could this potentially be a path like that be part of the overall non-motorized plan too? Could it be some sort of trailhead potentially, or a cut through to the beach that could be tied into other potential trails that are being considered or developed too?
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we're trying to, a green space that's a little bit more quieter than a traditional park environment for that neighborhood too, would be a thought.
Something also to keep in mind is that, Manistee has a number of parks, actually quite a few considering the size of the community, and they all cost money to maintain and sustain. So just remember, nothing is free. And neither is green space. Also, the county has done a lot of work on the non-motorized trail plans. So there are some of those green space opportunities that are linking. We're kind of a step away from where I've seen most of them as far as the location, because Lincoln School is, or Jefferson School is an island, so to speak, compared to some of the other venues that they have kind of established going through the city. But I do like the idea of combining green space, some open areas, some trail plans and housing in that district. I think that's a great idea.
I think that idea fits well for that neighborhood. It really does.
And maybe I'm just getting too into the weeds, but I'm also wondering with if we were to do a combined residential and then green space, with that green space, then would that be a neighborhood association that would maintain and manage that? Because I'm wondering with, again, for the school district, then we're still responsible for that. So I mean, I like the idea of that just because I'm in the neighborhood, but just from the school's perspective, I'm not sure how that would work.
And I think we might be talking about the relationship with the city with something like that too.
Right.
And then Sands Park conversation is part of that. I know that we probably will have a greater interest in supporting Sands Park because of the amount of students in that area. And so I think there's a potential of supporting each other potentially between the two parks. Mick, don't you think there's some possibilities there?
Absolutely, yeah. And again, the collaboration is key. So that we get the most use out of the properties that we're both maintaining, and we can share funds. That makes a lot of sense. And again, I don't know if kind of a community association would be what would be necessary, but I certainly get the idea that the school system doesn't want to have an obligation to support a small little piece of green space within a housing area or a community area. So it would make more sense that the city would be involved in supporting that. And again, certainly with trade-offs between Sands Park and that little area, that would make sense. Yeah. Just so the whole thing doesn't become another park. That's, I think, probably a non-starter for the city. And I'm only saying that for myself, not from a city representative. But again, it's expensive to maintain the parks that we already have, and And again, some of them, the use certainly is questionable to support the costs associated with that. So this could be a good balance for the community.
So we're joint owners of Sand Park, and we have an agreement there. And so I think using that agreement, expanding of altering or reviewing is a possibility to get this done.
Mhm.
Right. I'm coming back to maybe my first question, and because you know, if the school needs more athletic fields,
Yep.
is there really a need for it at Jefferson, or could there be a trade so that the school got maybe the entire Sands Park for athletic fields, and then the city would take over Jefferson? Or, I mean, there is a little distance between the two. Is that a practical
Sure.
issue, or would the students just walk over there to play soccer, or how are you seeing?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yes, I think that exists, and you're reading between the lines a little bit related to if our students are so tightly located to Sands Park, it may be an idea to develop the green spaces use at Sands Park rather than Jefferson too. So the open fields and the things that we're looking to accomplish to support our athletics and our community activities, we may be looking at Sands Park instead of Jefferson, and working with the city on that agreement on how the current agreement may adjust related to our need or use of it. And that is the conversation most likely to have just to explore options.
Hmm.
So I think you're spot on. You kind of read between our discussion on that possibility.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think it would not be a good idea to create an owners association for the green space at the Jefferson site, because when you add the word association, then the co-owners will claim ownership, and that
No, I don't want to go down that road.
Right. No,
way better to
I
stay away from
agree.
Nope,
association.
no.
Yeah, and also it's too small to really kind of, it's not scaled to be able to be effective in that realm. So I agree.
I don't know real estate, maybe Randy, like you do, but I imagine there's some sort of easement that we would create through the property that allows, some flexible space on the property with an easement. And we can accomplish that through permit or the city council allowing that.
Mhm.
And there's probably the end of Locust Street is on the south side there. 6th Street stops at the parking lot, but and just from the aerial views, I can't tell if there's any more vacated streets than just those, but
Yeah.
it does look like there's 3 parcels there actually. So
Yeah. And it looks, again, we could even look at that as being an overlay district and then really creating something unique potentially. The small houses, for example, there's a lot of opportunities when you come to, planning a site like that we can explore.
So I would like to speak with our attorney and let them know what options and what we're thinking about with this piece of property, and maybe get some advice and some direction related to how some scenarios could be put together. I think I was going to do that prior to this meeting, but I didn't want to bring any assumptions to the table. But it sounds like we're at a place, I think, that I need to be able to provide some information to the board related to this possibility and what our council advises related to some scenarios. That makes sense?
Mhm.
Sure.
Randy, how are you feeling?
Yeah, that sounds good. And I think the design of, or if the board decides and the committee kind of recommends here to the board that it be a mix of maybe individual parcels and or some green space, a good engineering firm will, I mean, they can create walking paths, and you can have a path from Bryant over to Locust through the parcels that would probably make sense for having some sort of something like that with a less dense building sites than stacked on top of each other.
Mhm.
Right, there's a lot of property there that is per se currently landlocked. So just looking at curb lots right now, I think creates, has the possibility to create some good space within that 5
Mhm.
acres.
Yep.
And the proceeds of the sale would pay for the splitting and surveying and all of the other things that go along
Mhm.
with curb cuts.
And if there was even more profit, we could consider what kind of money could be invested in what we need another green space to be for us too.
And they could go towards Sands Park, the development there.
Yeah, or private parking for the superintendent. One of the,
Over at Madison.
yeah, right.
Kennedy.
Yeah. So within another maybe a week or 10 days, get the holidays over here and reconvene this committee to meet again, kind of give an update on information that's been provided to us by council. And of course, you know, we have architect on board right now, and we have Chrisman Construction that's on board with us for our bond. They're great resources for dropping this idea in their lap, and they can point us in some directions to talk about possibilities also. So maybe 2 weeks we'll get back together. Is that
Sounds
fine?
good.
And I will send the invite, and we'll meet in this way, and we'll see if we can move this conversation forward. I really like where we're at right now. Ponder on it, and if you feel you have some insight or concern, send me an email or give me a call that you may, you know, if something comes to mind you want me to ask council about, maybe zoning, anything that you feel that there's a question that needs to be answered and you think of it, just give me an email or a phone call, okay?
Very good.
Great.
Sounds great.
Thanks for including us.
Oh,
Thank you.
I couldn't do this without you guys, and bring others if you think they may be interested to the table at our next meeting too.
Okay.
It's a community effort. All right, have a good evening, and again, thank you for joining. Anything else
Thank you.
before we go?
What?
Anything from you?
Oh, for me?
Yeah.
Have a great Thanksgiving and stay safe.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.